What makes a teenage character a teenage character? Is it just their age? Is it what they wear, how they look, and what they say? Can you take just about any story with adult characters and simply reimagine them as younger versions of themselves with equivalent goals in, say, high school scenario, maybe adapting their lines with contemporary slang? Imagine this high concept, Teenage Macbeth. The adaptation has been made many times, but if you had to do it, where would you start? Would you picture him as just younger looking, wearing jeans and, I don't know, on a skateboard? Would he try to become class president instead of King of Scotland? Or, in other words, would it be a matter of looks and goals, or something else? Recognizing the teenager in a teenage character is a peculiar task because, first, it won't involve everything about them, and second, if there's anything common to teenagers, it's not what you can see of them or hear from them, or even what they do. It's not a matter of social condition or background. It's not even about rebelliousness and pursuit, traits and objectives that can be shared with adults. Rather, teenage characters are about how they do things and to what extent they do things. It's about a universal and unchanging spirit, the teen spirit. That's why you can read a novel written 70 years ago and still go, ah yes, younger me. Let's elaborate. Much has been said about Holden Caulfield from A Catcher in the Rye. Before the novel was published in the 40s, some editors wondered if Holden was crazy, and they weren't off the mark by much. But that'd be missing the point. Holden is presented mostly as a kid who doesn't like anything. He doesn't like where he studies or where he used to study, or his roommate, or his neighbor. He doesn't like the fact that his brother is a successful Hollywood writer. He doesn't like the classes he takes. And though he has a fixation with sex, he can't lose his virginity because there is always something to object to. He takes exception to everything. Even his little sister Phoebe can see through his lies. When challenged to state one thing that he likes, just one, he can't think of anything. So, while Holden's shtick seems to be authenticity, that he hates phonies, etc., etc., everybody is a phony in his book. And that's the teenage spirit. The kid is all or nothing, no gray area. No one is worthy of his approval. Well, except for Phoebe, whom he adores, because she's so innocent. His neurotic focus on authenticity, innocence, and what have you, that's just a screen, a hopeless attempt at rationalizing how extreme his feelings can be. That's what makes him tick. Is he traumatized because of his other brother's death? Sure. But he'd be as emotional if nothing had happened. He'd still go around trying to scrub every single swear word off the walls. Frankie Adams from The Member of the Wedding isn't any different. She aspires to tag along with her brother and soon to become sister-in-law, exploring the world in what she has misconstrued as a perpetual honeymoon, bliss and self-fulfillment. She has convinced herself that she must see everything and do everything and meet everyone, although she doesn't really know what any of that means. Frankie could have inspired the Sex Pistols when they wrote, "Don't know what I want, but I know how to get it." And her how to get it is absolutely delusional. Like Holden, who just resorts to running away because he hates phonies, she also wants to run away because nothing is enough for her. Her town, too dull and small. The townsfolk, too uninteresting and indifferent. Even her cousin, John Henry, and the househelp, Bernice, who are basically her nuclear family, fall under unfair scrutiny. Too monotonous. If anyone and anything gets Frankie's seal of approval, it'll be the most distant and intangible. No compromises can ever be made. As with Holden, is this all there is to say about her? Of course not. But it's the intensity with which she feels that takes control every single time, and everything else is more or less circumstantial. Frankie simply finds no redemption in her life because she refuses to find it. And rather than looking inside, she, like Holden, looks outside. Their inner sense of imperfection and incompleteness, while natural to human beings, is amplified to the extreme and projected onto the world that surrounds them. Their teenage spirit commands their every obsession and bad decision, and they wouldn't have it any other way. Ponyboy Curtis from The Outsiders is no stranger to this. Out of the three, he may come across as the most agreeable, but he's still driven to an all-or-nothing mindset. For instance, he can't digest his older brother's icy approach to life and relationships. As a result, Ponyboy truly, honestly believes that his own brother, his willing caretaker, hates him. He's also shocked when he manages to strike a friendship with an upper-class girl who tells him, quite plainly, that the rich also suffer. And he's a bit baffled when another Soj, who's just trying to amend things between the groups, tells him that no final fight will settle any disputes. That the characters even believe a big rumble can put an end to problems is a good sign that we're dealing with raw teen energy. Jim Stark from Rebel Without a Cause is very similar. He can't stand the way his father behaves towards him and his mother, although his father is probably the polar opposite of Ponyboy's brother. Once again, there is more to the picture than this. But would Jim really be happier in Ponyboy's shoes? Or would he and any other teenage characters hold any alternative parents, friends, and acquaintances to the same impossible standards because of the emotional need of a teenager to do so? I'm not saying their stories will be the same if their circumstances were different, but these extremes become manifest in all teenage characters, no matter which, where, and when. It's not about how broken a character is. While it's easy to see the teenager in Danny Vineyard when he goes full-blown neo-Nazi, it's also easy to see the teenager in Arlene Lorenzo, who, through a series of hilarious accidents, meets and falls in love with none other than Richard Nixon. How about that for extreme? We could talk about teenagers finding no middle ground for hours, but that's just the how teenage characters do things that I mentioned at the beginning. The other important aspect is to what extent they do things, and it's now clear that it's to the fullest possible extent. So now we need to consider what effect this has. I'll say this in the simplest way possible. For teenage characters, nothing ever works. Their formula is extreme emotions lead to extreme actions that lead to failure. Almost invariably, their prodigal energy leads them nowhere good. It can't because it's misplaced. Their goals, dreams, and wishes represent multiple layers of deception, hiding the fact that they are mostly heart, not brain. This seems a bit harsh, doesn't it? And yet, it's what makes a teenage character compelling, believable, and relatable. They are meant to tell the tale of suffering because they refuse to live in a world where things will never be exactly what they want them to be. You can be a teenager and win, and yet, for a while, you have to be. You will have to compromise, like Jim's father and Ponyboy's older brother. You will live a life without constant excitement and fascination, like Frankie's mother figure, Bernice. You'll have to put up with your struggles, like Holden's history teacher insinuates. And I don't know about Jim Stark, but it seems he was on the right track, at least. He probably did better than Danny, and definitely better than Arlene. So, Teenage Macbeth? I'll let you think about that one.